Hi everyone, today I want to show you how to generate offers in the Investment Dominator system. So you can see here under my land deals I've got a bunch of records, or I got 5 records that are in the mailed letter 1 status. That means that I've mailed out my first mailing. If I go to the house deals over here, I've got some that I've mailed out letter 1 to, I've got some that I've mailed out my postcard to, and I've got one that I mailed letter 2 out to. So I'm going to go over how to generate offers once people start calling you back on these mailings, how you're going to go ahead and generate offers out to them. Okay, so the first thing I want to explain is when somebody calls you back, you or your representative is going to obviously talk to them on the phone in most cases, or they're going to go to your website and fill out the form on your website. Either way, your record is going to move from this mailed letter 1 status to a pending preliminary research status. This is the status where you're going to do your preliminary research and determine an offer amount, or if you want to do an option, things like that. So let's just say that this person right here calls in, so you move that person into the preliminary status, and let's say this person right here also calls in. I'm going to go ahead and update the status of these records and hit update. And then for the house deals, let's say that this person, Mary, calls in, and I'm going to update her also to the pending preliminary research status. And also, let's say that this company, this calls in here, we don't know the name of it yet. Let me just update that real quick. Now you notice when I have updated these records to the pending preliminary research status that the offer amount field pops up, allows me to make or enter in a bunch of offer amounts for these properties. Now when somebody calls in, more than likely you're not just moving the status like that, you're actually going into the record. So in this case, we don't know this person's name. It's probably a company. So let's click on Edit Record. This is what your representative will do, or you'll do when they call in. And the first thing you want to fill out is the name of the caller. So let's name this guy Ed Jones, for instance. Let's say that that's the one that's the person that's calling in, and you can see we did have a company name from the county records that we imported. So that's already been filled out. Also, we do have the mailing address that we imported into the program. That this is the address that we had mailed the initial letters to. So when you're on the phone with these people, you can just verify their address, make sure that nothing has changed there, and just let them know, is this the same address you would like the offer sent out to? The other thing is you're just going to go through this form in order and just ask him these questions. So for instance, if this guy Ed, we first ask him, who am I speaking with? He says Ed Jones. Then we ask him, is there any other owners on record? We have Darby Partnership as the owner. Is there anybody else on record? And at that point he can clear it up. If he doesn't know, sometimes people don't know that information, you can just let them know that, hey, you can look that up in the county, so don't worry too much about it. But if they do know, it's always good to get them to talk about their property. And also by asking these questions, you're also gauging how much they have invested in this property. If you get the feeling that the person doesn't know much about their property, then you know right off the bat there that the property probably doesn't mean too much to them. So asking these questions are not just for research purposes, because you can find this information out with the county, but it's also to start that rapport process with your prospect, so that you're communicating, and also to get a feeling on how much does this person know about their property, and therefore how much are they interested in this property. If somebody is not interested in their property at all and they just want to get rid of it, then you'll get that that'll come through when you start asking these questions, because they'll say stuff like, you know what, I've never seen the property, I don't really care about the property, so if you want to do research on the property and send me an offer, then that's fine with me. Otherwise, I don't really know much about it. If people are talking like that, then you really know kind of where they're coming from, and that may affect your offer, because you can obviously offer a little bit less to those people. They have less invested in the property, they don't care about the property, and chances are they're just wanting to let that property go anyways to tax auction. So that's probably why they're not paying their taxes in the first place. So you want to go through here and ask all these questions. Do you have an email address? If they don't, then just skip it. This is an important one. What phone number do you call them back on if you have any questions? So let's just enter in something here, 888-888-888. And if there's another phone number that they want, if they don't have another phone number, you don't have to put anything there. You just kind of fill in what you know about the property. There are fields that have these asterisks that are important and required fields, but for the most part you're going to have them filled out anyways. Also, you want to verify that the record you had on file, that it was a house. You want to verify that with them, and the county that it was in. Verify all this information, the APN number. Most likely people don't even know this number, but if you get stuck here, you can just say, do you have a tax bill from the county, because that's usually the number they put on their tax bill as an ID number. This number right here came from our import from the county, so it should be correct, but you can always verify with them. The legal description, things like that, most of the time people don't know this information. Don't worry too much about it. You can get this when you do your detailed research with the county. And property address, with a house, usually the owners know the address or can find that out, and that's always good to get. At the very least, I would try to get a zip code from them. So let me just type in a zip code, 85, let's see, 024, and what size is the house. Try to fill in all this information. If they have back taxes, now you do want to verify this when you're doing your research, because chances are if they do have back taxes, the owners may know. Generally they might say, yes, I owe $300 in back taxes, but they might not be exact. And especially in the land profit generator area, when you're making an offer, you're agreeing to pay the taxes, so you do want to verify that exact amount with the county, because sometimes the county puts on fees on top of what they owe on back taxes, and that's also going to be required to be paid off when you go to close. So you do want to verify that with the county, especially in the land area. In the house area, you're using a contract that doesn't require you to pay taxes typically, so it's less of an issue, but it still is something you ask them, because they also need to pay off their back taxes in order to transfer the title to you, so that has to be accounted for. So let's say this person owes $300 in taxes. Let's say they don't have a mortgage or anything on the property, but you could enter that in there. The county assessed value, that's something you can easily get from the county website, but you can also ask them if they may or may not have that information. Market value, they probably don't know that, or if they do give you a number, it's probably something you definitely want to confirm, because they probably don't know the exact number, or they're not correct. The other thing is, there other structures or improvements on the property? Is there a shed? Things like that. Let's say that this person has a shed on the property. Also, how long have they owned the property? Is it something that they just bought a couple of years ago, and therefore they probably have more invested interest in it, or is it something that they purchased 30 years ago? And also, this is an important question in the house side of things. So when you're dealing with houses, what do you think the property is worth in the condition it is now? So just ask the person in that specific wording, because it does make a difference. You're asking them what they think it's worth in that condition, because a lot of times when you're dealing with a house, you have to remind the people of the condition of the house. So maybe the house is worth $200,000, but if the roof is caving in, then it's not obviously worth $200,000 because the roof has to be fixed. So if you remind them of the condition part, then it'll bring up other things. Like they say, you know what, that probably the house is worth $200,000, but you know, recently had a fire and it destroyed half the house, so I don't really know what it's worth in its current condition. But that's so basically it'll come up with you know, the situation that the house is in, and so you want to ask that question in this wording, and that's why we have written it out like this. So let's say that, you know, in its current condition it's worth $75,000, and let's say this other question is very important for houses as well. If we pay cash and close on any date you want, so we're saying, you know, if we're we're coming to the table with cash and really meeting you on your timeline requirements, what's the least amount you would take for the property? So we're really gauging out their bottom line on the property. Let's say if they think the property is worth $75,000, let's say if you know, we can pay in cash and we can close quickly, they're willing to, you know, take as little as $65,000, let's say. This right here also is some comments. So if there's some other comments, again, based off of these questions here, you might have some comments in there, like half the house was destroyed in a fire or something. You might want to enter that in right here. The other thing is that you want to know if it's currently listed with a realtor, because if it is, you want to get the information of the agent or the company that's listing it and their phone number, because you want to be dealing with that listing agent, especially if they have an exclusive contract with that person, or even if they don't, you do want to go through the proper channels, which is dealing with their agent on the property. Here, your representative, if you have a representative like a VA taking your phone calls, they're not going to see this section anyways, but this is where you as an admin can put some notes in there about the property. Also, this is where you set the offer amount when you're in the record. As we saw on the previous screen, you could also set the offer amount on the overview screen, but you can also come in here in the record and set it here as well. At this point, I'm just going to leave it blank because we're just simulating taking the phone call. The property listing information, obviously, you don't need to take this. You don't need to ask the caller that, because this has to do when you actually sell the property. So this will be filled out after after you buy the property, and so you can skip this section when you're talking with the person. I'm just going to go ahead and hide this section completely. And the transaction information, this has to do when you buy the property as well, so you don't need to fill out this information. I'm going to go ahead and hide that information. And pictures, we don't really have that right now, so because we're just taking the initial call, so I'm going to hide that. And I'm just going to hit update record. Alright, so our record is updated, like we just took a phone call. And I'm going to go back, and now you can see that under this record right here we have an owner name, or this is the caller's name, and this is a person we're dealing with. Let's just go ahead and go to one of the land deals right now and go through that screen. So let's say that we're talking to Joyce on the phone here. I'm going to open up her record, and again, we're going to verify, hey, who are we talking to? Now here we don't have an owner on file, so we just ask Joyce, are you the owner on file, or is there someone else? And let's say Joyce says, yes, I'm the owner, it's under my name, but there's also my husband's name. His name is Tom, and also Johnson. So we're going to fill that in. There is no company information. We'll leave that blank. Let's say that their number is 999-999-9999. We're going to verify their address, and let's say that this is correct. It's a piece of land. You want to verify that as well, and just keep going down just as we did on the houses. There are a couple fields that look a little different on this screen than on the houses. For instance, what's the acreage or the square footage of the property? You can enter that in. Let's say that it's 5, or let's say it's 4 acres. It's the terrain of the property is on a steep incline, and the zoning of the property, they may or may not know that information. You can get that from the county, so you can skip that if they don't know. The base tax amount is basically the amount that the county charges per year for that property. So in land, it usually is a relatively low amount, so it might be something like $150 per year. So that's what the annual base taxes mean. You can also get this from the county as well, so don't worry too much about it. What you do want to try to find out from the caller is if there is an HOA fee. Now, they should know this information if there is, because if they purchased the property or inherited the property, either way, if there is an HOA, they probably got already a bunch of phone calls and messages and letters from the HOA, and there's probably, the messages are about fees that they owe, things like that. So you do want to ask them this question, because you'll have a tougher time to find out about HOA information. So it's not as easy as getting the the annual back taxes from the county. So figure out if the property has a HOA, and if it does, I would fill in what is the fee. So it might be $30 a year or so, and typically it's pretty low on land anyways. But I would also make a note under your admin comments down below here in this section that if they tell you the name of the HOA and things like that, you might want to put it in there just for your reference later on, because like I said, it is a little bit harder to dig that information up, and you want to make it as easy as possible when you're working with these records. And the other thing you're going to ask them is there any back taxes? Now, in the land area, you are going to agree, or if you use our template, our offer template, you're actually going to agree to pay those back taxes. So let's say that this person owes $250 in back taxes. You are going to agree in your contract with them that you're going to pay that $250 to the county in back taxes. So you want to get that information, and you do want to actually verify that with the county after you hang up with these people. And in your research stage, you want to go in and verify that amount, because the caller may not know the exact amount. You also want to ask them if there's any liens or mortgages or anything like that on the property. If they took out a side loan with Uncle Bob, you want to make sure you get that amount owed on there, just for reference, basically, because you're not agreeing to pay for that, but you do want to be aware of it. The back taxes, you are agreeing to pay for that. County assessed value, you usually get that when you do your research with the county. Also the market value you're getting when you do your research. Typically on land, people have no idea what the market value is, and that's probably why they're calling you in the first place. They have no idea what their property's worth, and they really don't care. They don't want to do the research or contact a realtor, and that's why they're contacting you. But you do want to find out if there's any other improvements to the property. This is important because you probably, if the caller doesn't tell you, you won't really figure this one out, especially if it's something that is built in the last few months. When you pull the satellite photos of the property, assuming that this is a property that's far away from you and you don't actually visit it, or you don't send somebody out to visit it, you probably won't get this information. So let's say this person has a wall on the property, or let's say actually a fence on the property. That's more likely. If there's something else on the property that is not mentioned in this list here, then you can type it in under this other section. So moving down on the list, you do want to find out if the property has any power going to it, any power lines. and how far away is it, because that's important when you go to sell it to know that information. You might be able to find this information out by looking at the satellite images or calling the county or the city, but it's always nice to know if the or it's always nice to ask the owner, because again, you're gauging their interest in the property. If they don't know information like this, is probably they'll say something like, I've never seen this property, I don't really care about this property, it was given to me, in a will or something like that. So when you're asking these questions, you're really gauging their interest. Also, it's very important to know if the property has road access. Is it paved road access, unpaved road access? Is it legal and physical, meaning there is an actual physical road and it's legally supposed to be there? Or is it legal access only, meaning there can be a road but there is not a road? That's very important to know, especially when you're dealing with rural properties. Also, if there's a physical address, usually that means there was a building permit filed, so that's always good to know. Sometimes the property has just an easement to get to the property, but there's really no legal access or physical access as part of the property. So you want to know all these informations, and sometimes the property is just kind of like landlocked. There's no way to get to it. So if they say something like that, you definitely want to do your research to see how can you get a road there and what are the laws in that county regarding that. Sometimes it's as easy as if there was a trail that's used to get to the property, then that can be turned into a road, and sometimes it's a much longer process or a difficult process that you might not want to go through. So you just want to get that information, and either from the caller or by doing a little bit of research with the county. Again, you want to also find out how long the person's owned the property. That's a factor in what you offer them, and obviously somebody that owns it in the last 3 to 5 years, they probably have a little bit more invested in the property than somebody that owned it for 30 years, because chances are if they bought it 3 years ago, the plans for the property hasn't changed very much in that time period, versus if somebody had purchased it 30 years ago, they might have planned to move there and then now decided, because of things that happened in their life or life changes, they might have moved to a different state or things like that, and they no longer want to move back to this area that the property is in. So you do want to ask this question and figure out how long they've owned the property for. Sometimes people just don't want to answer questions like that, and that's fine as well. So you don't want to push the caller to answer questions like that, but you want to try, and also just be very friendly, because at this point you're building rapport with that caller. If somebody doesn't like you or doesn't like talking to you, then chances are they're not going to accept your offer anyways. So this is a chance for you to just communicate with your caller and just get a feel for the reasons why they're selling the property to you in the first place. Again, you want to gauge what they think that their property is worth. Chances are this is completely wrong, but or sometimes they say they don't really know. But you just want to fill it in, and then you want to do your own research to compare. But let's say that this person thinks their property is worth $5,000. You can enter that in here, and any comments regarding this section you can fill in under caller comments. And again, if we pay cash for the property and we close, whenever you want, what's the least you would take for the property? So let's say that, even though they think it's worth $5,000, if we pay them cash, then, they're willing to walk away with $3,000 in cash if we do it quickly. So again, you want to put in their comments under this section here. And again, we want to find out if it's listed with a real estate agent, because we do want to work with the agent in that case, if it is. And again, in this section here, this is something that you as an admin will only see. Your representatives will not see this section, so you can type in your notes here that are just hidden from everyone else, except for other admins. And also, this is where you can enter in your offer amount. if you'd like. At this point you probably don't know it, so you can just skip it. And here again, here's the listing information. This has to do when you sell the property, so we'll go ahead and hide that for now because we're taking a phone call. And this is the transaction information if you do purchase the property, and so we can hide that as well. Obviously you don't have any pictures right now, you're just on the phone with these people, so you can just hide that and go ahead and update the record. And now we've got all this information saved. So if we go back here, so this is how you process incoming phone calls as people call you on your initial letters that you send out to them.